So I get a lot of questions about gear and what gear I specifically think is the most important to focus on, especially for beginners. So in this video, we're going to be talking about all the gear that I use for photography in 2022. Let's get into the video. So first things first, we're going to be looking at my camera bag. This camera bag is made by a company called Langley. I think that it's a really cool looking bag. It's waterproof, but it's really nice and the build quality is really nice. I think the one thing about this bag is that the pockets are kind of hard to get to. So if I have a camera in this main pocket up here and I have another one down here, I have to take this camera out, pull it back and get under there, and it's not very fast. So that's one downside of the bag. And then as far as these pockets here, you really can like fit a battery or two in them and maybe a charger and maybe some cords, but there's not really that much room for everything. So I like this bag. It looks nice, but it's not really the best for storing a lot of stuff. So next up we have my backup camera. This is the Nikon D750. I used this as a main camera for about 4 years and it was awesome. It did exactly what it needed to do. It's just getting a little bit old, so some things like the autofocus and the video capabilities weren't really there. But I made most of my progression through photography on this camera body. If you're looking to get into full frame and you have a slightly smaller budget, this is a great camera. It's a little bit older, but it's really good and it's nice to have as a backup now. So the next body that I have is the main camera that I use right now. It's the Nikon Z6ii. It's the one I'm using to film this on, and I've absolutely loved it since I got it. The autofocus is amazing and fast, and most importantly, the video capabilities on this camera are super good, and I can actually record decent quality video on it. So I'm super excited about that. As far as the photos are awesome on it too. I was nervous to move over to mirrorless for a while, but I'm really glad that I did, and it's been super great so far. So next we're talking about lenses, and the first lens that I got that I really decided to invest in was the 24-70 2.8 from Tamron. This is an awesome lens. I think it's one of the most versatile lenses, especially if you have sort of a smaller budget like I did and do. You have to be really careful with where you decide to spend your money, and I would recommend that you spend most of your money on lenses because I think that that's going to help you the most, the fastest. So this is a mid-range zoom. On the wider side, you can get really good landscapes and even some like portrait landscape sort of photos. And then you got 35, 50, and 70, so you can get a little bit more compressed and zoomed in if you want. So this has been a really great lens. I would definitely recommend this lens as a first professional quality lens. Now, when that one doesn't really get me the range that I want, I whip out the big brother, the 70-200 2.8, which is just basically the exact same lens, just 70-200 mil instead of 24-70. So I have the entire range from 24-200 covered at 2.8. So it's really fast to focus. I've noticed that it focuses sharper and more accurate than the 24-70, I think. And when you're really compressed at 200 and you're shooting at f2.8, there's a lot of background blur and it looks really awesome. This lens is a little bit less versatile than probably the 24-70 for most people, but I really like to use this for portraits and getting a little bit different looks in the set. So I like to shoot with, 35 prime and then get some shots with this at different focal lengths. So I would definitely recommend it. So now that we got the zooms out of the way, it's time to talk about primes. And the only prime that I have right now is the 35-1.4 from Sigma. It's really good for portraits, documentary style, street. It's also really good for low light because the maximum aperture is really wide, so it'll let in a lot of light. And really nice for shallow depth of field if you want to get some detail shots. When it comes to lenses, I would definitely recommend investing most of your money in lenses and trying to get the most quality lens that you can afford at the time. The order that I got these lenses in was the 24-70, and then I got the 70-200 to cover that higher end of the range, and then I got the 35 prime. And with those three lenses, I'm able to do most things that I want. All right, next we're gonna be talking about flash and lighting. So this is the Yongnuo YN660 speed light. So this just goes on the top of your camera, and I haven't used this too much, but I used it a couple weeks ago and I really liked the way that it turned out. I think that it's pretty fun to sort of just play around if the lighting's not great inside or it's getting kind of dark. You can just bust this out and change the look. I think the flash look is super cool. It's quite a bit better than, the flash that your camera has. You can kind of direct the light in different ways and add attachments and different things like that and bounce the light off the ceiling, for example. I think that I picked this up for about $100, so for the value it's like amazing. I don't think that you could ask for much more for $100. So next up, with talking about flash, I have the Flashpoint Evolve 200 Pro, and this thing has completely changed the way that I do portraits. This thing has been super awesome. I think that it's been so fun to work with. The ability to shape the light exactly how you want and put it exactly where you want, and with the exact amount of power, and get your exposure perfect. So the way that I use this is I have a stand with a mount that it hooks into, and it just screws in, and then I have a soft box. I think it's about a little less than 3 feet, or it might be a 3-foot soft box, and it just gives a really soft, natural look to the light, and I really love the way that it looks. I think some of my favorite portraits have been taken on this just in the last couple months, so I'm excited to keep playing around with it and keep learning about it and see what I can do with it. So the last thing in my gear kit is my tripod from K&F Concept. It's really easy to use, and the legs are really fast to extend, and you just kind of twist it and pull them out, and it's got a lot of different features. You can go top down on it. That's how I'm shooting these B-roll shots, and I think that it's a really good value. I think that it was less than $200. So that sums up all the gear that I use for photography in 2022. I think gear is super fun to talk about. I think a lot of people get overwhelmed thinking that they need, you know, a whole bunch of gear, and I think that there is some truth to that, but I think that you can definitely learn and grow and push the boundaries of each piece before you need to move on to the next one. I would definitely recommend investing mostly in good lenses. But yeah, so that sums up the video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.